Alright guys, I am back again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Deer Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 1 of my Lyrical Monasterio Haseritt deck. So this is the first of several lyrical decks, as you can see, that I will be doing in a row. And of course version 1 is everything through the first additional card pass, so through the Lyrical Booster 3. And this deck is very reminiscent of the old Shushu deck from the G series, focusing on allowing you to bottom deck your own rear guards after they attack in order to draw new cards to replace them. So as always, we will be going through the deck real fast, and then we'll show it off in one card fight. So starting first with the ride deck, we have our Grade 0 starter, which is Brand New Start Haseritt. So when it's rode upon, if you win second, draw a card. Standard D-Series starter, as always. Next, for the Grade 1, we have Bouncy Gate Haseritt. So she has an auto ability that says when this unit is rode upon by a Grade 2 with Haseritt and its card name, you can choose up to one Grade 2 or less normal unit from your hand, call it to rear guard circle, and until end of turn, it gets power plus 2,000, and a new auto skill that says at the end of the battle this unit attacked the Vanguard, you draw a card and put this unit on the bottom of your deck. So this skill is pretty much an abbreviated version of the Grade 3 Haseritt skill, as you'll see here in a moment. But as far as the power gain goes, most of the rearguard units in this deck actually have 2,000 less power than their grade would have normally. So that extra 2k usually just brings them up to where they would be usually. But the main focus of it is the auto skill, letting you bottom deck one of your units and then draw a new card to replace it after that unit attacks. Which, returning stuff to the bottom of the deck is the main gimmick of this deck. So all of our rearguard skills kind of rely on that in one way or another. So this card just allows you to start pulling off some of your combos one turn sooner, since you can do this on turn 2 before you get to your Grade 3 Haseritt form. So it allows you to just speed up the deck slightly. So next up for the Grade 2, we have Undecided True White Haseritt. So her auto ability says when this unit is rode upon by a Grade 3 with Haseritt in its card name, you can Soul Blast one to choose up to one Grade 3 or less card from your hand, call it to rearguard circle, and if you called a card, draw a card. So very simple ability, just a Soul Blast one for a call one and draw one, which thanks to the Grade 1 Haseritt skill, you should always have at least one empty rearguard circle when you ride into Grade 3, so you should never have to worry about having to call over top of something or anything like that. So this skill is basically just a Soul Blast one for a +1. So very simple skill, but very helpful. And then we have the Grade 3, which is Iridescence Palette Haseritt. So she has an activate ability that says once per turn, you can counterblast one to choose up to 5 of your normal unit rearguards, and until end of turn, they get power plus 2,000, and the auto ability that says at the end of the battle this unit attacked the Vanguard, draw a card and put this unit on the bottom of your deck, and if you chose 3 or more cards, this unit gets power plus 10,000 until end of turn. So one thing up front I do want to point out here, you notice I did stress the word units in that skill, because this card actually does have a misprint on it. As you can see in the ability right there, it says put this card on the bottom of your deck. It should say put this unit on the bottom of your deck, which doesn't sound like that would be a huge difference, but it actually does matter for one very specific card interaction, which I'll go over later when we get to the Grade 1s. But this card was misprinted in the physical card game as well, and the physical card did receive an errata to correct it, and for whatever reason the errata image never made it to Deer Days. So the image of the card and the text of the card over on the right does have the wrong word in it, However, this is really just a visual error because the card does function properly as it's intended to. So just be aware that that's supposed to say unit instead of card. But when you actually activate the skill, everything will work properly. But beyond that, this skill, like I said, is a stronger version of the Grade 1 Haseritt skill, letting you target up to 5 of your rearguards instead of just 1, to give them the power gain and the bottom deck skill. So again, that power gain is probably just going to put them up to where they would be normally for most of your units. However, the bottom decking ability that you're granting to your rearguards is your combo starter for most of your combinations in this deck. You can combine it with your various rearguard skills in order to turn that ability from a ±0 into a +1. It can allow you to power up some of your other units still on your board to make your attack stronger. There's all sorts of various effects that this skill can combo into. So it's definitely vital in making the deck function. A few other things to note here: this skill can only target your normal units' rearguards, so you can't call out triggers and then cycle them back to the deck with Haseritt's skill. You do also need to have a minimum of at least 3 rearguards out to take full advantage of this ability, preferably a full field of 5 to get the most out of it. But you do need at least 3 in order for Haseritt to get the 10k power to herself, which that power up can be pretty important in this deck since we do actually have a way to make your back row center rearguard into an attacker, which means most of the time Haseritt is not going to be boosted for her attack. So giving herself that 10k power up can definitely make your Vanguard attack a little bit more threatening. So overall, a very cool boss unit for the deck. So that is the ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, for the grade 3s, we of course have our 3 additional copies of Iridescence Palette Haseritt for our Persona ride, with the alternate art LSR, of course, with her in her swimsuit, looking very cute. So next up, we have 2 copies of Magic Hour Ballad Minmi. So her auto ability says when this unit attacks, you choose one of your units in another column, and you may have it get power plus 5,000 until end of turn. And if you do, put this unit on the bottom of your deck at the end of that battle. So as you can see, this is an 11k base grade 3, so this is the first one of those, below average power units, like I mentioned before. So Haseritt's skill will bring her up to the standard 13k that a grade 3 would normally be at. And her skill just lets you give 5k to one of your other units in another column, which it requires you to put her at the bottom of your deck at the end of the battle, but you would be doing that anyway thanks to Haseritt's skill, which means this 5k power gain is essentially free, which is very nice since you do definitely want to be able to power up all your attacks as much as possible with this deck. So yeah, she's just here to make one of your attacks a little bit more stronger. So then lastly, for the grade 3s, I am running 1 copy of Energetic Attendance Calfee. So she has an auto ability. When this unit is placed on rearguard circle, this unit gets power plus 10,000 until end of turn. So she is a 10k base grade 3 actually, but between her skill and Haseritt's low power boost, she will be at a 22k base on her own. So she's just here to be a beat stick, and she'll be vanilla after that if she stayed on your field, but she obviously is not going to be staying on your field since she will bottom deck herself after she attacks. So if you want to, you could replace this card with a 4th copy of Faustina, which is one of the grade 2s I'll be going over here in a bit, which Faustina and Calfee basically do the same thing for the most part. So if you'd rather go with that, you can, but I decided to just run her at 1, mainly because I like her artwork. So that is all of the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. First off, we have 4 copies of Shape of Cat's Cradle, Sylphia. So she has 2 auto abilities. First one says once per turn, when your other rearguard is put on the bottom of your deck during your battle phase, you can Soul Blast one, and this unit gets power plus 10,000 until end of turn. So pretty good power up ability, giving her an extra 10k, which again, she's an 8k base grade 2. So between Haseritt's skill and her own, that will put her to a 20k beat stick for your board, as long as one of your other rear guards attacks before her and then puts itself to the bottom. Now this does cost 1 soul, which we do have quite a bit of soul blast costs in this deck. So you might want to be careful about when you use this to make sure you don't need that resource for someone else who is more important at the moment. But if you have the soul to spare, making one of your attacks 10k stronger is definitely a useful ability. And then she also has her second auto skill that says at the end of the battle this unit's attack hit a Vanguard. You can put this unit on the bottom of your deck to draw a card and countercharge 1. So she is the countercharge engine for the deck, although the only thing that counterblasts in this entire deck is Haseritt herself. So you really shouldn't run into too many counterblast problems in this deck. But the main point of this skill is actually how it interacts with the skill that she is granted from Haseritt. Because normally Haseritt's skill would be a ±0. But if her attack hits, both those skills will go on to standby at the same time, and you can resolve them in either order. So if you resolve this skill first, which would be labeled as Auto 2 in your queue, resolve it first and pay the cost to put her on the bottom of your deck, and that will let you draw and countercharge, and then you'll still be able to resolve the skill that Haseritt granted to her, which will be Auto 3, and due to the do as much as you can rule in Vanguard, since she's already on the bottom of your deck, you'll just get to draw again. So basically her attack hitting will turn her skill from a ±0 into a free +1 with a countercharge on top of it. So that makes her a good pressure unit, helping you increase your card advantage if her attack does manage to hit a Vanguard. Now you do want to make sure that you resolve those skills in the correct order, since putting her to the bottom of the deck is a cost for this skill, while it's part of the effect for the skill granted by Haseritt. You do have to make sure to do Auto 2 first, because if you do Auto 3 first, she'll already be on the bottom, and you won't be able to pay the cost for this one. So be careful about that, but if she does hit, she can be a very helpful unit in increasing your card advantage. So next up, we have 4 copies of Adorable Shooter Clanfelier. That's my best guess on how you pronounce that. But anyway, she has her auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle from hand, if you have a Vanguard with Haseritt in its card name, you can put a grade 2 or less card from hand into soul. To look at the top 7 cards of your deck, choose up to one grade 3 with 12,000 power or less, grade 2 with 9,000 power or less, or grade 1 with 7,000 power or less card from among them, call it to rearguard circle, and shuffle your deck. And if you did not call a card, draw a card. So this is an incredibly powerful skill for this deck, very helpful in helping you build your board. Like I said, a full field is ideal in order to take full advantage of Haseritt's ability. So by putting a card from your hand to your soul, this card can check the top 7 for any of your below average power units, which outside of Clanfelier herself, which as you can see is the standard 10k for a grade 2, and one of our grade 1s, which is Yuika, pretty much everything else in the deck can be searched out by this, all your other good, normal unit rearguards. So being able to dig through the top 7 and potentially get another good rearguard on your board is definitely very helpful for the deck's consistency, which this skill is a ±0 since you have to take one out of your hand into your soul in order to get one from your deck. However, that does also give you another soul resource, and like I said, we do use quite a bit of Soul Blast in this deck, so that cost can actually end up being beneficial as well. And even though it's unlikely since you are checking the top 7, if you somehow do manage to whiff, and all 7 of those are just like triggers or perfect guards or persona ride copies or, just stuff that you don't want to call, you still have the option to just not call anything and just draw a card. So the skill won't totally fail no matter what happens. So definitely a very powerful card and very useful in this deck. So then lastly for the grade 2s, we do have 3 copies of Especial Days Faustina. So she has an auto ability that says when this unit attacks, this unit gets power plus 2,000 until end of that battle for each of your other units. So this is just another beat stick unit. She's usually the rear guard that I attack with first, since if you have a full field between her ability and the extra 2k from Haseritt, she will be a 20k beater. Even if you do have one open rear guard circle, if you have her in front of Yuika, she still can hit magic numbers with that column as well. So she's just a good offensive unit to have out on your board, which can be pretty important in this deck, especially if you have to, hit over top of a damage trigger or something. So if you want to replace Calfee with a 4th copy of her, then you can feel free to do so as well. So that's all the grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 4 copies of Any Color Bubbles Shaylin. So her auto ability says when this unit boosts a rear guard, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Haseritt in its card name, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of that battle. And at the end of that battle, you can Soul Blast 1 to choose one of your back row center rear guards and move it to an open front row rear guard circle. So again, with the power up from Haseritt, she will be a 13k booster when she's behind a rear guard. And then at the end of that battle, you can move your back row center rear guard to the front, giving you a 4th attack that turn, which you should always have an open front row rear guard circle to put it in, since your front row attackers will be bottom decking themselves at the end of that battle. You just resolve their skill first and then resolve Shaylin's. So very important card for the deck, giving you that always important 4th attack. Now she is another Soul Blast cost, but generally speaking, her skill is the most important one you'll be activating every turn. So you definitely want to prioritize having the soul for her over anybody else. So definitely a 4 of for the deck. So next up we have 2 copies of Munch Munch Lunch Kaolina, which is a great name. But she also has an auto ability that says when your rear guard is put on the bottom of your deck during your battle phase, if you have a Vanguard with Haseritt in its card name, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So another good beat stick card. I like having her in my back row center a lot of the times to combo with Shaylin to move her to the front for her to be my 4th attack that turn, since you should have 2 other rear guards that would have bottom decked themselves by that point. So she will gain an extra 10k from her ability, since that's not once per turn. So between the power up from Haseritt and her own skill, she should be at a minimum of 18k, 28k on a Persona Ride turn. So she can hit pretty good numbers for that 4th attack even without a booster. So that's pretty much her role in this deck. So next we have 3 copies of Cooling Heart Yuika. So she has 2 auto abilities. First of which says once per turn, when your other unit in the same column as this unit is placed, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So since she is the standard 8k base, and she'll be getting the extra 2k from Haseritt's skill, with this extra 5k piled on top of it, she will actually be a 15k booster. So like I said, that can help hit magic numbers with Faustina, even if you do have one open rearguard circle. But she's mainly being played for her second auto ability that says at the end of the battle this unit boosted a rearguard. You can Soul Blast 1 to choose one of the boosted rearguards and return it to your hand. So she can bounce whoever she boosts back to your hand at the end of that battle, which means if you combo that with the skill granted by Haseritt, she can bounce the attacker back to your hand, and then you can still resolve that attacker skill that was granted by Haseritt, and again do as much as you can. And since that card is back in your hand and no longer a unit, you don't have to bottom deck it from your hand, but you still get the draw out of it. So this is the one card interaction why I wanted to point out why it's important that Haseritt's skill is supposed to say unit and not card. Because if it's supposed to be card, you would still have to bottom deck it from the hand. But since it's supposed to say unit, you don't have to bottom deck the thing you bounce with Yuika, and you can end up getting a draw out of it. So again, for the cost of Soul Blast 1, it can turn that bottom deck skill from a ±0 to a +1. So another very helpful combo in order to increase your card advantage. So the only other grade ones we have are our Sentinels. So first we have 3 copies of Soapy Splash Riviera, just your standard Perfect Guard. As well as, of course, 1 copy of the Blitz Order Elementaria Sanctitude, which you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, we do just have our trigger lineup, which is 7 crits, 4 draws, 4 heals, and 1 over. So starting first with the crits, we have 3 copies of Original Style El Shuka. So just your vanilla crit. Additionally, we have 4 copies of Precious Tune Edwidge. Crit with a skill. At the end of the battle this unit boosted, you can put this unit into your soul to choose one of your units, and it gets power plus 2,000 until end of turn. So it's another soul gain option if you're desperate for that resource, though it can be kind of clunky getting a spot for her on your board. But it's still nice to have the extra option. So next for the draws, we have 4 copies of Transparent Snowy Night Baratois. So draw with a skill. If your opponent's Vanguard is greater or greater, get shield plus 5,000. So your 10k shield draw trigger. Next for the heals, we do have our 4 copies of Peaceful Garden Anika. So just the vanilla heal. Of course, you can run any of the effect heals if you so choose. And then lastly for our over trigger, we have our 1 copy of Fantastic Fernale Katrina. So her additional effect says during this fight, you get during your turn, all of your rear guards get power plus 10,000. So grants a skill to the fighter, powering up all your rear guards for the rest of the game. So obviously the earlier you check this, the better. But definitely a very powerful card. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our 1 fight with it. And we'll fight Haruka this time. And we will be going first. Alright, so we'll discard one of those crits to ride, and then we'll just end our turn. So she gets to add 1 meteorite to her hand, which she immediately plays. And I'll let that one through. And she gets a heal that is wasted. And we get a crit that is also wasted. And we draw our over. But anyway, we'll drop this other crit to ride. And grade 1 Haseritt will let us superior call 1 from our hand. So we'll go ahead and call Faustina, who gains 2k, and the bottom deck skill. So then we'll call Yuika behind her. And then we can attack with a Vanguard first. So then we can attack with Faustina. who will gain 4k from her skill since we have 2 other units. And she guards. So we want to resolve Yuika's skill first to let us Soul Blast and return Faustina to her hand, and then we can resolve her skill granted by Haseritt, and we will still get to draw. And I'll let that one through. And let's see, we'll go ahead and guard that one. Alright, so we'll discard one of these Cowlinas to ride Iridescence Palette Haseritt, and then Grade 2 Haseritt. We'll let us Soul Blast one, and Superior call one from her hand, so we'll call Clanfillier, and then we'll get to draw, and that'll also trigger Clanfillier's On Place skill to let us put one from hand to soul, so we'll put that draw trigger. And then we can check the top 7, and we can Superior call Sylphia over here. And then we'll go ahead and call Shaylin behind Sylphia and Cowlina to our back row center. And then use Haseritt's Activate ability to Counter Blast. And we can choose up to 5 of our rear guards to give 2000 power and the bottom deck skill. And since we chose 3 or more, Haseritt gets an extra 10k as well. So we will go ahead and attack with Haseritt first, not boosted. And we get a heal trigger, which we do get, so we will heal 1. And we will give that power to Cowlina. She gets a crit trigger. So next we will attack with Sylphia, boosted by Shaylin. So Shaylin's skill will give her an extra 5k. Oh, and she let it through. She gets a draw trigger, which is probably not good. So let's see, that triggers both of Sylphia's abilities since her attack hit, so we do want to be sure to resolve Auto 2 first. So that'll let us put her to the bottom of the deck and draw, and we have nothing to countercharge. But now we can still resolve Sylphia's skill granted by Haseritt to draw again. So, since we put a card at the bottom of the deck, that triggers Cowlina's skill to gain 5k. And that also lets us use Shaylin's skill to Soul Blast one and move Cowlina to the front row. So then we'll go ahead and attack with Clanfillier, boosted by Yuika. And that won't be enough to hit, but we're doing that just to trigger Clanfillier's skill. So we're going to resolve Yuika's first to Soul Blast and return Clanfelier to her hand. And then her skill will still let us draw as well, so we get a plus out of that. Alright, so now Kaolina won't be able to hit the Vanguard, so we could attack into her rear guard. But if we do that, we won't be able to bottom deck Kaolina, because it only works when you target a Vanguard. And next turn our board's going to get wiped by our meteorites anyway, so I think I'm just going to attack into the Vanguard just so we can get the draw skill. To avoid that minus next turn, we'll bottom deck Kaolina and draw.
Vanguard にアタック。ネルトリンガーのスキル発動。パワープラス。
So she did send 5 meteorites to the drop, so she'll gain 15k and a crit. And all our trigger effects will activate twice this turn. And our meteorites get to wipe out the rear guards we have left. Though fortunately we emptied most of our rear guard circles thanks to Haseritt's skill. So let's see, that is 2 crits, and I'm only at 1 damage. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that through, I think. And yeah, she got no triggers, nice. So now her 1 rear guard won't even be able to hit us with anything. So now we can Persona Ride. So let's see, we will go ahead and call Clanfelier and use her skill to put 1 from our hand into the soul. So let's put this draw. And then we can check the top 7. And we will superior call... we'll call Minmi, actually. Put her over there. And then we'll go ahead and call Shaylin behind Minmi. And Sylphia to our back row center. And why not? We'll go ahead and call Edwidge behind Clanfelier as well. So we'll use Haseritt's activate ability. And we can target 4 of our units to give 2k and a bottom deck skill, which is still enough to power up Haseritt. So then we can attack with Haseritt first. And we get a heal trigger, which we do get. So we'll heal 1. And we will give that power to Sylphia. And we get a crit, nice. So crit to the Vanguard, and power to Clanfelier. And she gets a heal trigger, which she also gets. So then we'll attack with Clanfelier, boosted by Edwidge. And she guards. So now Edwidge's skill will let us put her into the soul and give 2k to somebody, so we will give that to Minmi. And then Clanfillier puts herself to the bottom and lets us draw. And since we put a card at the bottom of the deck, that does trigger Sylphia's skill, so we'll go ahead and use it to Soul Blast one. And she'll gain an extra 10k. So then we can attack with Minmi, boosted by Shaylin. And Shaylin's skill will give her an extra 5k. And Minmi's skill will let us give 5k to Sylphia as well. She lets that one through. So let's see, first we want to resolve Minmi's Auto 1 skill to put her to the bottom of the deck. And then we'll resolve the Auto 2 granted by Haseritt to get the draw. And then Shaylin's skill will let us Soul Blast and move Sylphia to the front. And then we can attack with Sylphia for 45,000. And she perfect guards. So she did manage to survive that turn, but Sylphia's skill will still let us put her to the bottom and draw again. And she did get her Persona Ride.
Vanguard にアタック。ネルトリンガーのスキル発動。パワープラス。クリティカルプラス。
And she did send the 5 meteorites to the drop again. So that will take out our 1 rear guard we had left. And her trigger effects will be doubled once again. So I'm gonna guard that with this over trigger. And let's see, that will be 2 to pass. As long as she doesn't get her over, it should be fine. She gets a crit trigger, so she will get to activate that twice. And she's stacking them all on 1 rear guard, so we should be fine. And we'll let that one through since it's just 1 crit. And we'll just go ahead and perfect guard that one. And we'll drop one of those heals. Alright, so unfortunately we don't get another Persona Ride. But we can go ahead and call Clanfillier over here. And use her skill to put 1 from hand to soul. So we'll put another heal to check the top 7. And let's see, we'll superior call Faustina over there. And then we'll call Shaylin behind her, as well as Sylphia to our back row center. And unfortunately we have nothing to put in that last rearguard slot, but we'll go ahead and use Haseritt's ability to counter blast again. And give our 4 rear guards an extra 2k. And the bottom deck skill. And of course Haseritt powers up once again. So we'll go ahead and attack with Haseritt first. And she guards for 2 to pass. So now we'll attack with Faustina, boosted by Shaylin. So Shaylin's ability gives her 5k. And Faustina's ability gives her an extra 8k. She guards and intercepts. So use Faustina's skill to bottom deck and draw, which triggers Sylphia's skill to let us Soul Blast and gain 10k. And Shaylin lets us Soul Blast one more time to move Sylphia to the front. So then we'll attack with Sylphia. She guards again, which means she will survive because Clanfelia can't hit anything. But Sylphia will go ahead and go to the bottom and draw. And I'm going to go ahead and attack with Clanfelia, even though she won't hit anything, just to cycle her off the board. So she only has enough meteorites to send 3 this time, so she won't be able to double her trigger effects. But she will pick off Shaylin. And that is still 2 crit, so I believe I will go ahead and perfect guard that. So let's see, we will discard one of these crits. She gets a draw trigger. And we'll let that one through. And we'll go ahead and guard that one. Alright, so now we will Persona Ride. And let's see, we'll call Yuika first over here. And then we will call Sylphia over here. Faustina over here, which will trigger Yuika's skill to gain 5k. And Kaolina over here. And I think that's the best we're going to be able to do. So we will activate Haseritt's skill, Counter Blast.
本当の戦いスキル発動
And power up our 4 rear guards.
パワープラスパワープラス
And our Vanguard. So then we will attack with Haseritt first.
ヴァンガードにアタック
And she perfect guards.
発動完全ガードドライブチェックドライブチェック
So then we'll attack with Faustina, boosted by Yuika,
ヴァンガードにアタックスキル発
who
動
will gain an extra 8k
パワープラス
with her own skill.
ノーガード
Oh, she gotta let through.
ダメージチェッククリティカルトリガー
And that crit does not save her, so we finally got her with
パ
that.
ワープラス私の勝ちねやった
So there you go, that was my Haseritt deck. Very fun deck. I do like the way it plays. It does remind me a lot of Shoes from back in the day. So anyway, I will be back soon with more deck profiles. We have quite a few lyrical decks we'll be going through. Next up, I will be doing Michu. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.